Top 3 Scariest YouTube Horror Stories That Will Leave You Frozen. Warning, you should never have clicked on this. What you're about to hear will never leave you. Once you know these stories, you'll wish you never listened. Be careful, you've just invited something into your life that's not going away. Story 1. The channel that was never meant to be found. It started like any other random YouTube search. Mark was just scrolling, bored, his fingers mindlessly tapping through random horror channels. But then something caught his eye. An obscure channel with no description, no profile picture. Just a single video titled, "You Found Me." The video had only one view and Mark was the second. Intrigued, he clicked. The screen flickered to life, showing an empty, dimly lit room with a single chair in the middle. No words, no music. Just silence. Then as Mark watched, the camera slowly zoomed in on the chair, and a whisper came through the speakers. It wasn't a normal whisper, it was as if the voice was right behind him. "You should have never come." Mark froze. He wasn't sure why, but something felt wrong. The voice, it wasn't just in the video. It felt like it was inside his own head, vibrating through his skull. He tried to close the video, but the mouse wouldn't move. His screen went black. And then the voice came again, louder this time, panicked and desperate. "I see you." Suddenly the camera shifted. Mark could see himself, sitting in his own chair, reflected in the dark screen. His heart pounded as the image of himself was twisted, warped, and distorted. The room behind him, his own room, was exactly as it appeared in the video. Empty, cold, dark. He spun around, but it was just the same ordinary room. But then he heard the scratching at the door. Soft but deliberate. His phone buzzed, displaying an anonymous message, "I know where you live." Mark tried to shut down the computer, but the screen flashed bright, white, and then flickered back to the same chilling video with the same voice now screaming in terror. "You're next." That was the last time anyone saw Mark. The video was uploaded just hours before he disappeared. No trace of him ever left his house. The channel? It's still there. You could watch it, but do you really want to? Story 2. The Demon Who Lurked Behind the Screen. Elena loved horror. She'd spent countless hours diving into creepy videos, subscribing to every chilling channel she could find. One day she stumbled across a channel that didn't look like the others. The name was just K, with only a single video titled, "The Watcher Behind You." At first she thought it was another amateur ghost story. But something about it felt different. The video started with static, then flickered into a blurry shot of a man. No, a thing, sitting perfectly still in a dark corner of what looked like an abandoned home. Its face was covered in shadows, but Elena could feel its eyes locked onto hers. The figure didn't move, not even a breath. A voice came through the speakers, "It knows you're watching." Suddenly the screen went black. A second passed, then another. Elena reached for her mouse to pause the video, but something froze her hand. The lights in her room flickered. The temperature dropped. She could feel something, someone, was behind her. Turning slowly, she saw nothing, but she could feel its presence, like it was waiting, breathing right behind her. Then her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, "I can see you." Elena spun around, but again there was nothing. She checked the video, but it was gone, just a static screen with a blinking cursor. Click. And that was when the voice came again. "You can't escape me." It wasn't through the video this time, it was in her own room, clear as day. Elena felt herself paralyzed as the shadow behind her flickered once, twice, and then leaped forward, its long claws reaching for her. The screen went black. But the voice, it didn't stop. It still whispers to her. Every night. Story 3. The Haunted Livestream. Ben had just started streaming on YouTube. He wasn't expecting much. A few viewers, maybe a couple of comments. But then one night, a new viewer popped up, someone who had never been there before. The username was just a string of numbers and letters, impossible to make sense of. Ben didn't think much of it at first, but when the user started commenting, things took a disturbing turn. The comments were simple at first. Just normal questions like, "What's your favorite movie?" But then the questions grew more personal, more invasive. "What color is your couch? How many pillows do you sleep with?" It was clear the user knew far too much. Ben laughed it off, thinking it was a prank. But then the comments got darker. "Why do you hide the scars on your hands?" Ben's heart sank. How could they know that? He had never mentioned anything about scars. The next comment read, "You shouldn't have ignored me. I see you." Suddenly the screen flickered and his webcam feed went black. A cold sweat broke out across his body. He checked his phone, but there were no notifications. No messages. Yet the chat continued, now completely filled with one sentence. "Look behind you." Ben's stomach dropped. He turned around. The room was empty. But the feeling of being watched was unbearable. He reached for the light switch, but the power cut out, leaving him in complete darkness. Then, from behind him, he heard a voice so close it was in his ear. "I'm right here." Ben tried to run, but the door wouldn't open. His hands trembled, but it was no use. The comments were still coming in, flooding the chat. "You can't run from me. I am always here," Ben screamed. And the last thing he saw was his own reflection in the screen, grinning back at him. If you're still here, listen closely, because now it knows you've heard it. The thing in the videos, the thing that watches, is not just a story. It's real. It knows you, it sees you, and it's waiting for you to turn off the screen. You've been marked. Subscribe now if you dare, because the nightmare is never truly over.